Hello everyone. Today we are going to understand about psychology. The scope of psychology. In this unit, we are going to understand the scope of psychology. The assessment criteria is going to be the learner can define the word psychology, understand the emergence of psychology as a discipline, describe the theoretical approaches or orientation within psychology, analyze how key concepts in psychology relate to current and contemporary issues in modern society. Understand the theoretical approaches to psychology. In this, the learner will be able to explain the basic principles and assumptions of theoretical approaches to psychology. Assess how the basic principles and assumptions underpin theoretical approaches to psychology. In this, we are going to study various approaches. Few of them are biopsychological approach, behaviorist approach, psychodynamic approach. We are going to understand psychology as a science. The learner will be able to assess how appropriate it is to use the scientific method to study human behavior and cognitive processes. Understand ethical issues in psychology. Identify the ethical issues surrounding research with human participants and non-human participants. The learner will be able to analyze the ethical issues surrounding research with human participants and non-human participants. On the basis of this, an assessment will be done. Have you ever been fascinated by the inner working of the human mind? Do you enjoy knowing what makes people tick and the causes of why people behave the way they do? What is psychology? Psychology is a fascinating area of study. It will help you understand human behavior and mental processes and allow you to better understand how we think, act, and feel. So if you're thinking about studying psychology, let's understand the reasons to help us figure out if psychology is the right choice for you. Why study psychology? The growing need for mental health professionals. The world needs more experts who can understand the human mind and behavior. As our world becomes faster, more digitalized, and competitive, we find it harder to set time for ourselves, our human connections, and to maintain a relationship with our inner life. This results in all kinds of symptoms and undesirable behaviors like depression, sleep loss, irritability, anxiety, troubled relationships, and much more. Compared to previous decades, people are more willing to try to overcome these challenges by seeking professional help. Having the right training and accreditation will offer you the knowledge and the skills to help deal the world. Understand human diversity and personality types. Psychology, yes, study of psychology helps us to understand the human diversity and the various personality types. You will learn all about the diversity of human experiences with the help of psychology. You will learn to differentiate between the different personality types, each with its advantages and challenges. This knowledge will help you understand a multitude of perspectives and build up your empathy. Not everyone thinks and feels the same way, and there are countless ways of looking at the world. This will help you not take your own worldview for granted and not judge others for being different. Psychology helps us to understand the various stages of human development, from birth till death, from conception to death. People behave and need different things, both mentally and physically, depending on where they are in their lives. Like every developmental stage has a developmental task. Your psychology studies will teach you the main developmental stages and what individuals tend to need at each particular developmental stage. You'll find out how important children's early development is and how it influences later life and behavior. So it studies infancy, neonatal, it studies childhood, it studies adolescence, adulthood, and then old age. This knowledge will help you evaluate if a person is currently on the right track in their life, or if some traumatic event or maladaptation is blocking their normal development. You'll be able to evaluate the mental state of clients and better understand the challenges they are facing. The study of psychology can be done anywhere in the world. Nowadays, universities are providing psychology degrees for both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Do your research and stay on the top of new discoveries. As a relatively young science, the field of psychology is constantly evolving, and scientists regularly make new discoveries about the human mind and soul. Part of your studies will require you to become familiarized with research methods while also helping up to date with the latest developments in the field. New studies about the relationship between the brain and the subjective experiences are especially popular. Subjective experiences are individual experiences. Also, as part of the work with your future clients, you will have to do a lot of research into psychological conditions, behaviors, and keep your notes well organized. Just a few examples of interesting discoveries in the field of psychology are what? Few examples. Limiting time on social media increases well-being. Emotional intelligence outranks cognitive intelligence when it comes to life success. So EQ is better than IQ. People are rarely aware of the real reasons for their actions. Cultural activities reduce depression in people over 50 years old. Frequent Instagram use is connected with depression symptoms, low self-esteem, and anxiety in young women. Why study psychology? It explores the fascinating world of the unconscious, the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. Our inner life doesn't always abide by the same rules as our external life. A big part of psychology is figuring out why we behave the way we do in stressful or specific situations. What are the unconscious processes that seem to overtake us when we least expect it? What are they trying to say about ourselves? What are our dreams trying to say? And what do we need to change to lead a more fulfilling life? What is the royal road to the unconscious? By attempting to answer these questions for ourselves and for others, we help develop a more conscious way of living and aim to bring more meaning in our life. Psychology. By learning psychology, we are able to distinguish between severe and mild mental illness. There's a lot of misunderstanding surrounding mental illness, abnormality, and you will need to learn a lot about it to help remove common misconceptions, stereotypes with abnormality. By understanding the behaviors associated with certain mental conditions, you learn to recognize them during your practice and formulate hypotheses based on these insights. This will also help define the limits of what you can do to help. This way, we are able to explore various avenues which wants to steer away from and which wants to pay special attention to during our sessions. Lots of room for specialization and development. There are a lot of paths you can take during your psychology studies, which will determine what type of psychologist you want to become. As a psychologist, you can specialize in one or more psychotherapy schools, each with its own theories and techniques. Generally, the more you read and train on psychology theories, the better will get at your work. The 5 main categories of psychotherapy, what are they? Psychoanalysis, psychodynamic therapies. And what do? They focus on the treatment with the help of the unconscious and relying a lot on the relationship between the patient and the therapist. Techniques vary depending on how each type of theory understands what the unconscious is and how it functions. Behavior therapy focuses a lot on unlearning undesired behaviors and learning new positive ones. So, like focusing on the faulty behavior, the faulty learning patterns. Cognitive therapy focuses on changing and correcting the way patients think, the client thinks, and relate to their behaviors and thoughts. So, faulty thought patterns. Humanistic therapy is concerned with empowering individuals to make choices that lead them to realize their maximum potential. Integrative therapy, usually using elements from multiple theories, using what they need for each individual case. So, psychology has great career prospects. Psychology is first and foremost a vocation. But that doesn't mean your studies won't always earn you a good living. If you want to practice as a psychologist, you will have to take specialized training and become a counseling psychologist or a psychotherapist. Depending on your specialization, you can also work as a clinical psychologist in hospitals or clinics, evaluating and giving tests to patients in addition to regular sessions. Facilitating group therapies, couple therapies, child therapists, individual therapies, therapy using play methods, or expressive methods like body movement and mindfulness. As a counseling psychologist or psychotherapist, you can work as your own boss or as part of the team or join an NGO and be involved in projects that support the mental health of your community. There's a lot of room for creativity and further development. A psychology degree can also be useful if you want to pursue a master's for a different career, which will help you work in human resource management, education, social work, advertising, communication, forensics, sales, politics, and much more. So, who is a psychologist? Who is a psychologist? What does a psychologist do? A psychologist is a professional who practices psychology and studies mental states, perceptual, cognitive, emotional, and social processes and behavior. Their work often involves experimentation, observation, and interpretation of how individuals relate to each other and to their environment. Psychologists usually require a bachelor's degree in psychology, followed by a master's degree or doctorate in psychology. Unlike psychiatric physicians and psychiatric nurse practitioners, psychologists usually cannot prescribe medication, but depending on the jurisdiction, some psychologists practice therapy. Psychologists receive extensive training in psychological testing, scoring, interpretation, and reporting, while psychiatrists are not usually trained in psychological testing. Treatment from psychologists can be individual or in groups. Cognitive behavioral therapy, yes, the most in-demand therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So you are applying the behavioral therapy as well as the cognitive therapy together, it becomes CBT. Is commonly used, well-studied, and high-efficacy psychotherapy practiced by psychologists. Psychologists can work with a range of institutions and people such as schools, prisons, in a private clinic, in a workplace, or with sports team. Applied psychology applies theories to solve problems in human and animal behavior. Applied fields including clinical psychology, counseling psychology, sports psychology, forensic, industrial and organizational psychology, health psychology, and school psychology. We'll now understand the definition of psychology. Now, what is psychology? Psychology is the study of mental processes, experiences, behavior. So in this unit, what is the aim of this unit? The aim of this unit is to equip learners with the knowledge and understanding of a brief history of psychology, its applications in applied psychology. The learner will also address the theoretical differences of how psychologists make different assumptions about what aspects of a person should be the focus of study. Although the major approaches contain distinguishable theories, they share certain principles and assumptions, as well as discussing the roots of science and what is meant by science. We can explore the study of human behavior from a scientific standpoint. So what is human behavior? What is behavior? Behavior is something which can be seen internally as well as externally. So when it becomes internal, it becomes the covert behavior. And the behavior which is observable becomes the overt behavior. The origin of psychology. This is the indicative content. William Wundt, classifying the work of psychologists, the process approach, physiological or biopsychology, cognitive psychology, comparative psychology, person and process approach. The person approach includes social psychology, developmental psychology, and individual differences. The process approach includes physiological or biopsychology, cognitive psychology, comparative psychology. The areas of applied psychology are clinical psychology, counseling psychology, educational psychology, health psychology, chartered psychology. Define the word psychology. Psychology is a scientific study of mind and behavior. It seeks to understand the processes that occur within the human mind and the observable behaviors that result from these processes. So earlier, the term psychology, yes, the term psychology came from the Latin word psyche and logos. Psyche is soul and logos is a study. But it was rejected because the soul was not verifiable. There was no evidence of soul. The field psychology encompasses a wide range of topics, including cognitive processes, emotional experiences, social interactions, and the biological underpinning of behavior. In a sense, psychology explores the intricacies of how individuals perceive, give meaning to the information around them. And how do you give meaning to the information around you? You give meaning with the help of your sense organs, through sensation. Your eyes, ears, nose, skin. You think, you feel, and act in various situations. Through empirical research and systematic observation, psychologists aim to unravel the complexities of human thought and behavior, contributing to a deeper understanding of both individual and collective aspects of human experience. So the human experience is of two types, the subjective and the objective. The objective, which is common, and the subjective, which is individual. Understand the emergence of psychology as a discipline. So the emergence of psychology as a discipline can be traced back in the late 19th century. Prior to this, philosophical inquiries into the nature of mind and human behavior, the groundwork for what becomes psychology. So where are the philosophical roots of psychology? Psychology comes from philosophy. The early philosophical discussions by thinkers such as Plato, Aristotle, famous physicians explored the nature of mind. consciousness and the relationship between body and mind. What is the relationship between body and mind? Descartes' dualism and Locke, empiricism, further contributed to the understanding of mental processes and the acquisition of knowledge through experience. So various schools of psychology came into existence. The first school of psychology was structuralism. The term structuralism comes from structure. So what does it mean? What is the school going to study? The school studies the structure of mind. So the father of psychology, Wilhelm Wundt, he's often regarded as the father of psychology, established the first experimental psychology laboratory in Leipzig, Germany in 1879. Wundt's approach, known as structuralism, was all about understanding the structure. It aimed to analyze and understand the basic elements of consciousness through controlled experiments. The next school we are going to discuss, functionalism. And this was given by William James. William James, an American philosopher and psychologist, introduced functionalism as a response to structuralism. So first it was the structure of the mind and then came the function of the mind. Structure was not observed. You cannot observe, you cannot see the structure of the mind. Now, there's something that is function of mind. What does a mind do? What is the function of the consciousness? How is it expressed? William James tried to focus on the adaptive functions of consciousness and behavior in helping individuals to adapt to their environment by understanding the functions of mind, consciousness. Later, the growth of school of thought. The early 20th century saw the development of various psychological schools of thought, and that included behaviorism. John Watson, Piaget, Skinner, all behaviorists. They tried to understand behavior. Gestalt psychology and psychoanalysis. Gestalt psychology, the study of the whole. Kafka, Wertheimer, Kohler, all Gestalt psychologists. Psychoanalysis was a term given by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis delved into the unconscious mind and the role of unconscious processes in shaping human behavior. Gestalt psychology with Max Wertheimer studied the organization of stimuli into holistic perception. The whole is greater than its parts. And behaviorism, led by figures like John B. Watson, Skinner, Piaget, like I told you, emphasized observable behaviors and environmental influences. So C is equal to E, that is cause is equal to effect. S is equal to R, that is stimulus is equal to response. No response without a stimulus is behaviorism. Diversification and specialization in psychology. Over time, psychology diversified into various subfields, including clinical psychology, which tries to understand the pathology, cognitive psychology, social psychology, and more. Increased specialization allowed psychologists to apply their expertise to specific aspects of human behavior and mental processes. The scientific advancements in the field of psychology, advances in research methods, technology, and the establishment of professional organizations such as APA, American Psychological Association, contributed to the scientific growth and recognition of psychology. The emergence of psychology as a discipline reflects a dynamic interplay between philosophical inquiries, scientific experimentation, and the ongoing quest to understand the complexities of human mind and behavior. Today, psychology encompasses a broad spectrum of theories, methods, and applications, making it a multifaceted and essential field of study. Thank you.